For some weird reason, I don't know how to begin this video. I don't know what to say. Okay, so fan fictions. Everyone loves them, most people, everyone reads them, fun. So I was thinking, I kind of want to make a video about that because there's not a lot of videos like that out there. And I was like, what should I do? So, I went on the internet and then I scoured some How to Train Dragon fanfics that I have not really read. I read. Okay, so this one that I'm gonna be kind of like not really reading because it is a long ass fanfic. It's been out for a while, and it's really popular. So I feel like lots of people have heard of them. But it's the Growing Up Haddock series by Katie Marie on fanfiction.net, and also on Wattpad, I think. So, obviously, just a disclaimer, this is not my story, and I advise you guys to read this story, like on your own or whatever, because I'm not going to be explaining every single thing about this book. This is just us having a little discussion, talking about it, maybe trying to get you guys to read it, because and the reason why I label this like, oh, reading this fanfic so you don't have to, that's just the trend. That's just what people say. But I do advise you guys to read this book if you guys haven't already. It's fun. It's really fun to binge because there's like 8 books in these series. And when I first read it, I was kind of like, I don't know, this book looks kind of like not that impressive, kind of whatever. But after I read it, I was like really impressed with the writing. Like, because everyone always assumes that fan fictions are just lazy writing, which is not true at all, in my opinion. I have read some really well written fanfics. Like, it's crazy. I honestly read some fanfics that are better written than actual published books, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But, like, I was very, very impressed with the writing in this book. And so I went down a rabbit hole. I read the books, all the books in the series, because I was like, I'm kind of curious. Like, it got me intrigued, okay? It got me hooked. I was like, let's see how this freaking story ends. And of course, you guys know I love How to Train Dragon, so I'm like, let me read a book about it. Fun. And yeah, it is crazy. Like, this freaking. Someone took their time to write that. That's all I'm gonna say. It's crazy, but in the best way. So, if I made it clear by now, I definitely advise you guys to read these books on your own because they're great. But you know, every Friday I'm gonna be turning this into Fan Fiction Friday. I'm gonna be discussing a new fan fiction, whether that's How to Train Dragon, Glee, Grey's Anatomy, whatever. I've never read any Grey's Anatomy fan fiction, which is crazy now that I think about it. So because the show is so long, it's crazy how I have not read anything, anything. So basically, I'm going to be going through the first book in this series. Again, not my book. I'm not taking credit for it, okay? I'm trying to invite you guys to maybe read this book if you want to, have a nice discussion, sit back, whatever. I'm going to try not to make too much edits into this to kind of almost make it seem like a fan fiction, to make it kind of seem like a podcast in a way, where I'm just going to be talking. I have some notes written down. Let's go. So the first book in this series is called Unexpected. And yes, it's about Hiccup and Astrid in like right after they got married, pretty much. So it takes place right after they got married. And this book was written in like 2013, I believe the first book was. So as you guys can tell, this book was written before How to Train Dragon 2 and Race to the Edge was a thing. So this book is only canon to the How to Train Dragon / Riders Defenders of Berk timeline. So that means there's no like Bigo, there's no Dagger redemption arc, there's no like anything like that. There are Race to the Edge characters in this book, I guess, but obviously not the original. So no Vigo, no Riker, none of those guys. So there's Heather, she's in this book, Dagger, of course the original gang, Hiccup and Astrid, obviously. Stoic is also alive in this book, even though they are like Hickstrid's married at this point in this story, I guess. So that's, I guess, is all you have to know before I get into this book. So hope you guys enjoy, you know, me reading someone else's book. Again, I'm not going to be reading the book. I'm just going to be explaining the book. Happy Fanfiction Friday. Okay, so as I said, this story takes place when Hiccup and Astrid are already married. So right off the bat in the first chapter, it basically says that it's like a game for people to spot where Hickstrid makes out the most. And apparently they make out a lot in Gobber's Forge. So people see that, and it's like people spot them. That's just a thing, I guess. So the second chapter is really random, but it kind of leads into the rest of the story. So the second chapter is called Burnt Fish. It's where Hiccup and Astrid basically get into an argument about burning fish, and it seems like really random and kind of like, okay, like what's the point of that chapter? It almost seems like a filler, but then of course you later find out that, like, you know, it wasn't. Because in the next chapter we find out, or at least later on in the chapter, we find, like, Astrid goes to Roughnut, and then we find out that they start, like, I don't know, arguing, whatever, and then all of a sudden Roughnut comes up with the idea that maybe Astrid is pregnant. Maybe she is. And then, of course, Astrid's like, nah, you're crazy, I'm not. Because I think at this point in the story, Hickstrid has been married for, like, a week. Like it hasn't been any time at all, so they barely got married. So, yeah, that's why she's like, no, I'm not, there's no way. But then they talk about their period situation, and then, like, yeah, she's pregnant. So, right off the bat, chapter 2... girls having a baby, okay? So that's what's happening in the story so far. And like, and then after the little fight, Astrid kind of comes back to the house, and then Hiccup is, I'm not gonna lie, I do like how this author wrote these characters, because they wrote them really in, like, you know, a kind of a bantery way, which I can totally picture them in real life. But like, not gonna lie, sometimes Hiccup is like a complete, like, bitch, and not bitch as in, like, rude. Sometimes he just, like, doesn't know when to take a hint, and that happens a lot in these stories. I found out he just doesn't know when to take a hint, and it's like, dude. But I also feel like that's also just Hiccup in the movies too. Like, I feel like he's stubborn, he's oblivious, he has no clue what's going on. So I definitely do feel like that's kind of true. But it is annoying because, of course, Astrid walks in, she's all sad. Hiccup is like, hey, what's going on? And then she's like, nothing, but he kept, like, kept pushing her, being like, please, like, tell me what's wrong. Like, it just kept going on and on, and then finally she snapped, and she was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. So it was like a whole thing. They argued, whatever. I mean, they didn't really argue. Hiccup was just kind of like shooketh, I guess people say. He was a little shook, and you know, but he was like, okay, it's not what we planned. Okay, it wasn't planned. It was an accident. We weren't careful. I mean, I don't even think they had protection in Viking times, but that's a whole other thing. So they were like, okay, whatever. So it was like a big thing and stuff. But like, yeah, so Astrid was just kind of like, are you sure? And then Hiccup's like, yeah, I'm gonna love this kid no matter what. And that's another thing that kind of leads into everything. So the reason why, like, you know, the argument about the fish was kind of relevant at this point is because Astrid's kind of like, this morning we literally fought over burning fish. So we are not ready to have a kid. So that's kind of why that thing was kind of written, I guess, to kind of show how immature they still are. Because I think at this point they're like 22 years old, so pretty young. Funny, 22, getting married, have a kid. I'm 21, have nothing going for me. So in the next chapter, of course, we see her vomiting, because that's like what always happens in the like the really popular pregnancy trope. She's vomiting. She's like, oh my god. And at this point, they also want to keep the baby a secret, if you know what I mean. And like Hiccup kind of roasts her at this point, because Hiccup was kind of like, Astrid, you're gonna get fat. People are gonna know that you're pregnant. And then, of course, she was like, no, I can hide it for a little bit. So they decided to kind of hide it a little. And I'm like, okay, fun. And so at this point, too, the only people who know about it is Stoic and the twins. They found out by mistake. So, also a random side note, I forgot when this happened. I wrote it down on my notes because I kind of forgot when it happened, but I remember. But Astrid also broke her arm from falling off a stormfly earlier. So she has like a cast on. But I don't know when she gets it off. She has like a sling or something or a cast on her arm. So that's something. And of course, Hiccup says, like, no, you can't stormfly without someone watching you because it's dangerous. You could fall, you could kill our kid. It's not happening. So he gets really, like, you know. So, of course, Hiccup is very overprotective of Astrid, and Astrid does not give a damn. She does not give a damn. So, there's honestly a kind of pretty funny scene that I feel like the scene is really popular, or this part of the chapter, I guess, is really popular, where Gobber was giving like alcoholic drinks to Hiccup and Astrid and lots of the villagers. But of course, Astrid doesn't want anyone to know that she's pregnant, so Hiccup literally drinks both his and Astrid's drink, so no one would suspect anything. Which of course caused him to get incredibly wasted. I really wish this was a scene so I could show clips, but I can't, so just picture in your head. And like, of course, he drinks too much, gets wasted. He also embarrasses himself in front of the village by like vomiting on himself, vomiting on pretty much everyone, which is honestly pretty fantastic. Great, love this part. Yeah, so he vomits on himself, and then Astrid literally has to like strip him naked. Yeah, okay. Strip him naked. And then Hiccup also tries to randomly seduce her when he's like naked. I'm sorry. Okay. So, in the next chapter, as you can expect, Hiccup wakes up incredibly hungover, and Hiccup then tells Gobber that Astrid is pregnant, so, you know. I believe Hiccup also asked Astrid if it's okay if he tells Gobber, and she said fine, so he goes and tells him that Astrid is pregnant, which is why he was so drunk off his ass, and not because he is a lightweight, okay? Vikings are not lightweights. So finally the couple tells everyone that they're having a baby, and then everyone was so shook for some reason. Like, they were already married. Like, I'm guessing they were pretty shaken because it's so early in their marriage. But like, come on. These Vikings will never survive celebrity drama. So another popular trope that I feel like is just popular in like the whole pregnancy trope thing is Astrid being incredibly hormonal, and then Hiccup like begging for forgiveness. That happens like all the time in these type of things. But then they go to the Great Hall, and then they see the village like throwing them like a big celebration, like, oh my god, you guys are gonna be parents, and it's gonna be the next heir to Burke. That's so exciting. And so they were honestly both incredibly awkward, but they went along with it. They were like, okay. And then we finally get to see Heather. Heather was there. And so in this story too, again, Race to the Edge never happened. So Dagger and Heather are not siblings in this story. So they're not siblings. She lives on a different island, but then she came over to visit for this celebration when she found out about the baby. So she was like, fun, let me come over, let's celebrate. And of course, as you guys can tell since she's here, she's also an ally to them. She's friends with them. She's mostly friends with Astrid. So similar to Race to the Edge in a way. So as Heather actually asked them, saying like, so are you guys excited to be parents? Are you guys ready? And then Hiccup's like, yes, I'm so ready. I'm so excited. He puts his arm around Astrid. And then Astrid's over here like, like she's not wanting this. Like she is like really silent. She's kind of uncomfortable. And this part's so random. So randomly at the party, Hiccup gets like drenched with like a bucket of water, because apparently it's like a tradition that if a woman gets pregnant, then the friends of the husband get the ice bucket challenge, basically. Something about that makes me laugh, because that's so Pacific. Like, how did they come up? Like, that's so random, but it's also so Pacific. So, during this whole chaos, whatever, was happening in the Great Hall, Astrid leaves and Heather sees her leave and then follows her, where Astrid confesses that she doesn't want this baby. She doesn't want it. She doesn't love it. Yeah, pretty dramatic. She does not want this baby. She wants, like, an abortion. Okay. I don't know. She just does not want this baby. She is not having it. She's really upset about it, and, like, yikes. And she honestly hates herself for feeling this way, but she can't really help it because, you know, she just hates this kid. Pretty dark. So for some reason, there was, like, a big ass conflict in this story where Heather kind of like, because Heather finds out about this, she's the only one who really does for a while, and then she kind of like pressures Astrid to tell Hiccup this, but then Astrid like refuses. Like, I don't see the issue in this. Like, I don't know why, because she's already pregnant. Like, she can't go back. But I mean, again, we'll see more of this as the story goes on, so keep your head up. So the next chapter was really freaking wholesome. Like, so a stressed mom in the village asked Hiccup to watch over her very annoying, troubled kid. Like, he is literally the worst. He's bratty, he's annoying, he's like, I could just picture him in my head, and he makes me mad. I don't like picturing him. And then Hiccup struggles to watch over him. He eventually gets the hang of it, and I won't lie, it was actually pretty sweet. He gets the hang of it, he acts really fatherly towards this bratty, annoying, horrible, awful, stupid kid. And they're just kind of whatever, you know? There's also a part where he, during this whole chaos, there's a part where he loses his leg, and then he also somehow gets shirtless, and then he also falls in a lake, so, like, nice. So Heather, again, kind of gets pissed at Astrid for, like, well, at this point, Astrid also, like, watched this happen from her window, and then she literally says to her unborn kid, she's like, you have a really good father. I wish I could say the same about your mom. Yikes. So Heather again gets kind of like pissed at Astrid for not really telling Hiccup that she doesn't want this baby. So like in the next chapter, Hiccup feels the baby's kick and like, I don't know, the scene also kind of made me laugh for some reason because Hiccup was like, wow, she's just like her mom. Then Astrid was like, how? And Hiccup was like, she likes to hit me. Whoa. I never done that in so long, that was so weird. Okay. So then we see Dagger the Deranged. Yes, he's in this story, and as you guys know from a recent video I posted, I love Dagger. I don't know, obviously I hate Dagger in this book, because not only is he, like, obviously still a villain, but he's also, like, he makes me uncomfortable in this book. I don't know why. He's giving, like, Vigo vibes. And I love Vigo too, but I don't know. It doesn't work on Dagger. So, yeah, so Dagger was over Burke for a peace treaty signing, and then he sees Astrid and, like, tries to touch her, and yes, it gets pretty uncomfortable. And then Dagger threatens war on the Burkians. And then Hiccup says, like, you know, we ain't afraid of you. And then Dagger says, is that me you should be afraid of? And Hickshred has no clue what that means. And still now, I don't really know exactly what it means. But, like, maybe if I review the second book, we'll find out what it means. So Astrid has been told that once the baby starts kicking, that she'll instantly love it. But nah. No, she still hates this baby. I also forgot that in this story, Roughnut and Snopout are dating. It's not important, but it honestly kind of makes me laugh. I don't know why. So Astrid kind of chills in the woods, pretty frustrated at, you know, life. And then out of frustration, she bumps into Fishlegs and then tells him that she doesn't want the baby. And then he gives her a nice little pep talk, you know, saying, oh, you should tell Hiccup, like, you know, he loves you, he'll be fine with it, like, all that kind of nice stuff. And then we also find out that Fishlegs wants to ask Roughnut out, so, like, kind of cute. And then Astrid also gives him a pep talk back, you know, being like, definitely go for it, like, you know, don't be afraid, just do it, whatever. kind of hypocritical because of what she's dealing with, but I think that's kind of the whole point of this chapter, to be honest. So yeah, kind of a wholesome scene. So there was this like really random scene where Astrid like pretended, again, I don't know how like much months she is. I think she's like 8 months maybe or something. I really don't know. But there's a scene where like Astrid pretends that she was in labor in the arena, and then chaos freaking ensues. And I also recommend you guys like reading the entirety of this chapter to kind of like know like so you guys like actually see what's actually going on, because it's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, so chaos basically ensues. Something about this chapter honestly kind of kills me. So Toughnut got his hair caught on fire. Hiccup was basically having a panic attack. It was really comical. I kind of enjoyed this part. So there was a random scene where Astrid and Stoic talk later that night when she can't sleep, and then the next morning Hickstrid talks, and then they discuss baby names. And just a side note, Hiccup thinks the baby will be a girl, and he like really wants a girl, and Astrid's the opposite. She really thinks it's a boy, and she really does want a boy. So they ponder baby names, and in case you're curious, the baby names that they ponder, it's kind of a lot, but I wrote them down because in case you're curious, they ponder the name Hiccup, but then of course Hiccup does not like that. He's like, we're not naming the kid Hiccup. And then they also ponder Stoic, but of course they don't like that name either. And then there's Sven, Amanda, Emily, Lilith, Beatrice, Trixie, Ashby, Kelly, Sophia, Allie, Haley, Mags, Samantha, and Nathan. That's all the names they're pondering, in case you're curious. They were kind of like, I don't know, bullshitting, I guess, towards the end, excuse my language. They were kind of just messing around towards the end, just saying random names, because of course they're Vikings, and the name Amanda is very weird to them. So, in chapter 11 is like Hickstrid's 8th month anniversary. Fun. So then they have dinner, and then Hiccup starts like bugging Astrid about if she's literally about to give birth, because I don't know, she feels pain or something like that. And then Astrid gets kind of pissed at his concern, being like, can you stop talking about the baby for 1 second? Can 1 second? Okay, that's a big thing. That's, I don't know. Astrid's getting annoyed that people keep talking about it. And then Hiccup really wants to like ask if she's fine, but then he knows it's gonna upset her, so he kind of shuts his mouth. So Astrid, of course, has like an inner monologue. Like, it's kind of silent in the room, but she has an inner monologue where she talks about how much she does really hate this baby, and she really wants to tell Hiccup, but she's like, I don't know. It's like a big thing. She really does not know what to do. So then she thinks she's actually is in labor, but they find out that no, she ain't going into labor. It's just like practice pains or something. And she gets frustrated that this happened on her anniversary. She's like, come on. It could have happened any other time, but it had to happen the one day I did not want to think about this kid. So she got kind of pissed about that. So then we cut to Dagger in Berserker Island, and then he's like, we can't just wait for Burke to attack first. We have to attack. Yikes. So he kind of comes up with a little plan, okay? We're going to see it being executed later. So I know I sound like a broken record, but especially when you hear like the Cliff Note version of this, because it just sounds like I'm repeating myself. But Heather again bothers Astrid, not like, they please tell Hiccup that she doesn't want this baby. She keeps bothering her about it, but then Astrid just honestly kind of decides that she's never going to tell them. So that's that. So here's where things kind of like heat up, because Hiccup was like, going on about how much he loves Astrid, how much he's proud of her, how much he freaking adores her, how much he loves this kid. Like, he keeps like going on and on and on. Then Astrid was like, Hiccup, please shut up. Please shut up. Like, I do not want to hear this right now, please. And then of course he kept going on anyway, being like, I love it, I love it, I love you, I love you. And then of course she finally snaps, and then she was like, well, you know what? I don't like this baby. I don't want this baby. I don't love this baby. I wish we never had this baby. She just completely snapped. And then all freaking hell went loose after this. Like, I was a little shook, I'm not gonna lie. So in chapter 13, Hiccup, again, excuse my language, but Hiccup blows the fuck up. Like, he is pissed at this, like to the point where he is throwing things, screaming like damn. And as I mentioned before, I advise you to read this scene in its like entirety. I believe the chapter name again is chapter 13, and I think it's called Blow Up or something, because that is what happens. He freaking screams his head off. He is pissed. Like even Astrid is like, whoa. Like she's backing up into the wall. She is like, this is no. Like I never seen you like this. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like you like this. And like Hiccup, in the midst of his anger, he says some pretty regrettable stuff that he regrets in the next chapter, pretty much. So apparently, in this universe, Astrid has a brother who died, like, at her hands or something. Like, it was her fault, technically, that her brother died. I mean, she obviously didn't kill her brother, but it was one of those things where he died and she didn't save him because something happened. I don't know. So technically, her brother died and she thinks that it's her fault, and she kind of has, like, PTSD from this. And so he mentions this in the argument, and then she realizes, she was like, no, do not bring this up. You swore to me you would not bring this up. Like, she was like, no. She was like, Hiccup, I told you this in confidence. Do not bring this up to me right now. But of course, his anger got the best of him. He was pissed. And then, yeah, she got pissed at him back. Rightfully so, because he brought this up when she did not want him to bring it up. And so then she slaps him across the face. Not gonna lie, kind of hot. So obviously that whole thing went very terrible. So of course she storms off, and then she sits by a cliffside, and then she is found by fish legs, and then, you guessed it, she goes into labor. She goes into labor, and of course, as if things couldn't get any worse, then freaking Dagger comes over to the village with his men, and then they just knock Fish Legs unconscious, and then they steal Astrid. Damn. Imagine being kidnapped when you're about to give birth. So I honestly think in this universe, Dagger has like a thing for Astrid. Like, he tries to get with her low-key. Like, he keeps like flirting with her, calling her beautiful. Like, he never done that in the original franchise, like, ever, from my understanding. But yeah, he's very much a creep in this universe. So then it cuts back to Hiccup, and then Bro is like, damn, I'm kind of an ass. So he was going to make Astrid something for like an apology for what he said, but then Hiccup finds Fish Legs unconscious in the woods, and then he finds out that she's also in labor after Fish Legs wakes up, and then both of these dudes freaking panic, okay? They are panicking, they're running around in circles, one's realizing what is happening to Astrid, and then Hiccup, of course, starts to regret what happens. He regrets what he said. He's like, oh my god, this is awful, it's all my fault. And of course, it's very on brand for Hiccup. He does it a lot in the franchise. So then Dagger makes like, I don't know before. Dagger makes me really uncomfortable in this fic. He's literally flirting with Astrid when she's like screaming in pain, like saying like, "Hey, you're so hot," and then she's like, "Get me a freaking midwife." Like, she is not having it. So then they make it to Berserker Island, and then Hiccup was like, don't take Astrid, okay? Take me instead. Like, a very noble sacrifice. And then Dagger was like, I don't want you. I want your fucking dragon. So basically the whole entire motive that he has in the Cartoon Network show, in case you're curious, in case you haven't seen that show, I recommend it. So honestly, kind of a badass moment here, where Hiccup literally like punches Bro in the face after Dagger was like taken away, so he doesn't die. It's kind of underplayed, I guess, because he doesn't die. He just gets like hit in the face. Stoic takes him back. He's like out of the way technically at this point. And as I said before, Hiccup punches him in the face. But that's the thing that always confuses me about these fanfics, because obviously at this point I read them all because I was curious about how it would end. And so I read these fanfics, and the way they talk about Hiccup is kind of weird, because like they say, oh, he's so small, he's so scrawny, he's so weak, but yet there's moments in this book where he's like punching people, he's like has actual strength all of a sudden. They say that he's really scary when he's angry, and then I'm like, Is that how he is in the original franchise? Because hey, except for the episode where he punched the freaking crap out of Snuff that was really something. So yeah, so yeah, and then after it all kind of was calming down, Astrid was like, I'm literally about to give birth. And then Hiccup was like, nah, dog, you're not having this baby here. Okay, you're not, no, there's no way in hell you're not having this baby on Berserker Island. And so then they ride on Toothless trying to get home as fast as possible. But then, literally in the air, Astrid was like, no, no, I can't do this. I'm literally about to give birth on this dragon. Land somewhere. So they do. They make an emergency landing, and that's the name of this chapter. So the gang was there as well. So the twins, not the Fish Legs, they're all chilling. Gobbler and Silverg are not there at this point, but they're all there. And like Roughneck was actually the one who ends up delivering the baby because in this fic she has some experience delivering babies. So there was a part where Astrid legit like squeezed Hiccup hand so hard that it breaks, and it also kind of makes you laugh. Like they say that you could like hear the crunching of his hand, and I'm like, that's my new headcanon. That definitely happened in canon verse. You cannot convince me otherwise. So then finally, after long excruciating labor, a baby boy is born, and his name is Finn. I know. So they clean him off, and then everything is okay, but no. It's not over yet. Because then they find out that there's not one baby in there, there's two. So yes, she's trying to give birth to the second baby, but the second baby is actually upside down, so a pretty difficult birth, if you know what I mean. So the second baby definitely had a much difficult birth, and it was a girl, but she unfortunately did not have a heartbeat. So this scene was actually really sad, I'm not gonna lie. Just the way it was written made it even 10 times more sadder. And it basically just consists of like Hiccup basically like giving his baby girl like CPR and then whispering to her. And it was really, I'm not gonna lie, it was really depressing, okay? I know I keep making jokes this whole video, but this scene in particular really was like really depressing and well written, so like pat on the back for the author for this. But no, yeah, it was like, yeah, so they gave CPR to a little baby, and then Stoic and Gobbler arrived when this was happening. But no, that baby girl is a survivor. This baby girl lives on, and her name is Adriana. They obviously don't come up with that name here. They come up with it later on, like when they're on their way back to Berk. But it's not obviously like a dramatic scene or anything. It's not like they're like, oh, this is their names or anything like that. Like, they just kind of think of it, they kind of exchange it to each other. It is what it is. So, yes, the twins are named Fearless Finn Haddock, and then named after Astrid's deceased uncle, which is canon to the show verse. And then there's Adriana Miracle Haddock, which is named, I don't know, Hiccup just came up with it. So as things died down, they honestly, like, what's weird about the story, again, the story is really well written, but what's weird about the story is that, like, they never officially, like, talk about what Astrid said about not wanting these babies, which I find really weird, because it was never even specified if she loved them right after they were born. Like, it was never even specified if that happened. Which, again, I find really strange. Like, I don't know why, just something about that is really strange to me. Like, she was kind of like, like, I don't know. So, like, but of course, Hiccup does end up apologizing for his mistakes. You know, which is nice, you know, it's nice. He apologizes for what he said about her brother. So that's nice. And of course, Astrid forgives him, it's fine. So, honestly, the last chapter kind of, like, foreshadows the next story, so it seems really weird out of context. But basically, Hiccup and Astrid announce their baby names to the village, and like people kind of go and congratulate them, take a look at the babies, whatever. And then this creepy old lady like walks up to Astrid and then asks if she could hold Adriana, but then Astrid already says, "No, I don't," in the most polite way that she possibly can. But the old lady was like, "Psych," and then basically held her anyway. Like, if this happened IRL, it's crazy how fast this old woman would get canceled. It's crazy. So Astrid then asks for her daughter back, and then we see Stoic being like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Like, he was pissed, he was really pissed. And then we find out that this old woman's name is Trista, but Stoic like screams at her to leave. And like, again, it wasn't even necessarily said who she was, and you don't get into detail about who she was until story 2. So like, ooh, interesting. So yeah, the story basically ends with a little bit of Hickstead fluff, and I'm pretty sure they ended up having sex. This is not just me being really horny, I believe. They did say that they're having sex, but this story does not have any smut, and none of these stories have smut really, so we don't know for sure. But like, can you imagine? Like, they get pregnant again, and then this whole story just like starts from the beginning. So yes, that is the story of this first fanfic that I felt like discussing because it's really interesting. And again, I'm sorry that I'm really weird in this video. I don't know why. I just felt really silly today. I really can't explain it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And honestly, this video was kind of fun, really simple, really like entertaining to make for some reason. And again, yeah, so it depends. If you guys like this video, I will be doing more of these. I might be doing the second part if you guys are interested in the second one. The next book in this series is called, what is it called? I'm drawing a blank, okay? It'll be here. Okay, this is the name of the book. So yeah, I might be doing that, which is really fun. Or I could be doing like another book or something. I was gonna be doing like, the dirtiest fan fiction, like that trend that people have going on. So I might be doing that. Who knows? So if you guys like this video, just let me know. Let me guys know if you guys read any really good or bad or cringy fanfics. Let me know because I'm very curious. And so of course, like always, I have my links to my Hydra Dragon playlist. I also have the 9 Realms playlist because I know some of you guys like that too. I also have a lot of other playlists in case you guys are curious. So without no further ado, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!